Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to Joyosity. I'm so glad that you're here today. If you are live, let us know you're here live in the comments because today we are talking about you and the conversations you have with yourself. So I can remember sitting in like January at my desk right here and getting ready to book a flight to New York. And then I was like, I can't do that. I shouldn't do that. And I went, wait a second. Who told me that? Who told me that I can't do that? And I was realizing as I'm having this conversation in my mind about extending a business retreat that I was going on, I was already telling myself no because I was kind of looking around for somebody else to validate what I was going to do or give me the permission. And I'm curious if that ever happens to you. Are you having these conversations with yourself in a way that limits your growth, keeps you small? I started having to think about, why am I automatically looking for permission somewhere else? Why am I having that particular conversation? And for me, I was scared. I knew what time away would create, and that time away would create some growth. And I was a little bit scared of that. And that's a hard thing to face. And so I was thinking about that this morning because we had a change of schedule, and I was thinking about that exact conversation and was like, oh, I know who I need to have on the show today. And because Erika is brilliant at having this conversation with yourself, she has mastered it with herself. She helps women entrepreneurs and lots of other people work through some of this part of entrepreneurship. In fact, she's hosting an entire conference about it. So I'm so excited to have Erika on. So let's welcome Erika Biddix. Oh, hold on, please. Your fault, not mine. Okay, there we go. My fault. Welcome.
Hi, that made me laugh.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're here today. Erika is an entrepreneur. She has 3 fantastic kids, couple dogs, and
a fish.
And a fish, a great husband. But she runs a co-working space in Knoxville, Tennessee, as well as a coaching program, all under We Are Aught. And she's just a delight of a human. And I'm so glad that you're here today.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here. This is fun. I love chatting about this stuff.
Oh, I'm thrilled. So just give the people a little bit about who you are so we can kind of put you in a place and tell us a little bit how you got to this idea and maybe why you're hosting a whole conference about it.
So the short version is I do like to call out my kids. I have 3 overly confident children that will treat them well later in life. Makes it a little more difficult to parent them. I am a recovering meeting planner of 23 plus years. So that was my first job and not my first job, but my first entrepreneurial journey. And then I started this company, Aught, 4 years ago next month. Actually. So we started as a co-working space and over time have turned into a kind of full service support system for female entrepreneurs and anything that they need from community to coaching, in-person events, etc. So the fun fact about how we got to this conference is I retired officially, like announced it to all the internets. In January that I was closing down that business and stepping back from that career. And then a week later, Sally and I, who is my co-planner, you've chatted with her quite a bit. We were at a retreat together with you in Disney World, and we were challenged to dream the biggest dream you could dream. And then we were told, take away all the framework that you know and dream even bigger. So Sally did that. She said, I think I want to host a conference. And I was like, good for you. That is great. I will cheer you through that. Later that night in the hotel room we were sharing, we were snuggled in our beds. And she said it again. And we start talking. She goes, I want you to do it with me. And I was like, cool. I just retired from that a week ago. But yeah, I think I do want to do that. So that was in January. And here we are, T-minus 3 weeks from today. From the conference happening. So
that is amazing. That is amazing. And I have vague memories of chitter chatter at the table because I was having FOMO because I wasn't at the table. But I think what's so great about your story is that you've done something so well for so long, and walking through a process of laying that down to grow differently is really terrifying. It can be
Very much
costly
so.
and
Yeah.
it's exhausting in some ways.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the things that keeps us back from trying the new big thing. Sometimes it's fear of succeeding, sometimes it's fear of the pain. Sometimes it's I think fear of, for me, I call it being too big for your britches. Like,
Mhm.
who do I think I am
I think I am. Yeah.
to do that thing? And so I'm curious, if you're listening in the comments, if you've got something that you've ever been like, I don't know if I get to dream that. Am I the person that gets to dream that? And when somebody asks you or says that to you, what is your response about that? Having
Well,
yeah,
today, well, for the last couple of years, my response is, "Who's the boss? Like,
who's the
you're the
boss?
boss." Like,
It's not Tony Danza? No, I'm kidding.
it's not. I mean, yay, but no. If you're an entrepreneur, at the end of the day, actually, let's go back to the beginning of the day.
Mhm.
When you decided to join the ranks of entrepreneurs, I would argue that one of the first 5 questions you say in your brain is like, where is the adult in the room?
Right.
Right? It's like when they send you home from the hospital with the kid and you're
Exactly.
like, who said this was okay? Right?
Right.
Like, and
The
I think,
adult. Like, who is that person?
yeah, the actual person who's going to tell me what to do. And the reality is, in entrepreneurship, it's you. Like,
Yeah.
you have to make the decision to tell people you've started a business. You have to make the decision to service or make your goods or whatever it is. So on the flip side of that also comes, you don't have to get permission from other people. Like,
Mhm.
you have to give it to yourself. And that is a muscle that you had better start working out pretty immediately when you become an entrepreneur. Because really and truly, the question that I get, I'll never forget Hannah. She's one of the women I coach, and she said, "Hey, I really want to push my launch back for such and such reason, but can I do that?" And I was like, "Hannah, you're the boss. You're the only one. Your clients don't even know the launch is scheduled,
Mhm.
and it's not impacting anyone else, right? Like, it's just your business in that moment." And so she now says that phrase to me constantly. She'll start to ask me a question, and then she'll be like, "Wait, I'm the boss." And she says, even when she's chatting with her husband Ryan about a business something, and she'll question it out loud, he'll go, "Who's the boss?" She goes, "I'm the boss."
The
So
boss.
I think that's a mindset shift, right?
I agree. And I think one of the things I've been interesting, because I work mostly inside organizations. I have some entrepreneurial leaders, but one of the things that's been coming out of corporate America, shall we say, is they want people with more entrepreneurial skills. I
Mhm.
have Gen Z students who are in college, and I have another one that's getting up. So we're visiting colleges, and everybody has an entrepreneurship program, at least, if not a major. And
Yeah.
it's not necessarily because they will go into entrepreneurship, but there are certain skills that entrepreneurs have
Oh,
to have.
100%. Yes.
Yeah, that
Problem,
businesses are like,
problem solving.
yes,
Uh, guess what, y'all? Pivoting is that's a skill set,
totally. Yeah.
right?
And businesses are
Yeah.
seeing the value of that. And so what I think about too is that same conversation that you have to have with yourself if you are the actual boss and the final decision
Mhm.
maker, you have to have with yourself first to be brave enough to even go ask the person who does give you the funding or the permission.
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, so if you're fully employed and you've come up with some brilliant idea,
Yeah.
right? And you've decided, you know what, I'm going to stay where I'm at, like I'm traditionally employed, and I'm going to bring this idea to my company, right? A lot of entrepreneurs start that way. They have a brilliant idea, they leave the company, they go do it on their own. Some people, they'll have that brilliant idea. Google, I think, is so great at giving the space for this to happen.
Mhm.
But you still have to make the decision to set a meeting with the decision maker and tell them about it. You still have to make the decision to, like, stand up from your desk and walk into the room and have the conversation. You have to make a decision to share why you're thinking that and what you think the next steps are. And so it's really not any less scary
Mm-mm.
to do it within an organization than it is to do it as an entrepreneur. Like, there
Yeah.
still are levels of permission that happen every day. Like, I right now I'm giving myself permission to drink my coffee on camera.
It's always welcome. You can show us your mug. I have a Ted
I have
Lasso one
multiple
with
beverages,
lipstick. Oh,
and
of course, multiple beverages.
this
It's the
one you didn't
Whitmers.
see because it was from a photo shoot. So
This is how it goes. So I think, one of the things that I notice in working with a lot of different types of organizations and people, that one of the common threads that I find is that women have, I think, more struggles giving themselves this permission,
Yeah.
to, particularly in the idea of, I get to do this for myself, even if it benefits other people. Not just that I get to do this for myself because it benefits me, but I get to do this for myself because it will benefit other people. Do you find that when you're working with
Yeah, for
entrepreneurs?
sure. I definitely think, I mean, I hate to completely stereotype. I do think it is something that women have traditionally a more difficult time
Mhm.
with. And I think if you'll think back to any of the conversations where you're sitting around with your besties, having margaritas or whatever, the phrase "can I" is inherent in a lot of the sentences that come out of our mouth. So it can
Yeah.
start a sentence like, "Can I do this thing?" Or it'll be, "I thought about doing this, but then I thought, can I?" Right? So that's constantly happening. And in my business, I travel a lot. With Aught's business, I'm doing a lot of travel that is personal development, retreats, etc. And my husband, bless him, Mr. Aught, he is like the most supportive human on the face of the planet. Like, I could not ask for a better partner. But I've tried really hard that when I go to him and say, "Guess what? I'm going to be gone for another week," that I'm not asking his permission for that. That's not how we have our relationship set up. But it's good exercise for me to say, "I'm going to be gone this week, and here's what the ROI on it
Mm.
is." Not that he cares what the ROI is, but it helps me in my brain to understand why I'm taking 5 days away,
Mhm.
in the middle of basketball season that he's coaching and my little one's playing, to know that there's a reason for it. So I kind of do a self check with
Yeah.
it. I would never even say out loud, like, "Hey, I need to be gone this week for 5 days," unless I've already decided personally that I'm good with it, right? That I'm leaving the kids
Mhm.
at home, that I'm going to take the stress of being out of the office for that
Mhm.
long, that the ROI is there.
Absolutely. I think that's one of those things where as an Enneagram 7, if you're new to the Enneagram, it's a personality framework. I really like to avoid pain. So sometimes I can excuse myself because the idea of whatever I'm dreaming about, the thing that requires me to take some time away, to separate, to dream, to think, could be scary and
Mhm.
painful. So it's really simple for me to go, "Oh, well, Annalise is gonna be home by herself, and I don't have anybody to, help her."
Oh,
I mean,
we're
she's
so good at
14 now.
excuses,
I
Jen.
mean, yeah,
We are
like, we
so
just
good.
start with them, and
Yeah.
and it's just like, oh, and really when I pause and I'm like, "Why did I go to the logistics first rather than the purpose?"
Mhm.
Like, and why do we do that? I mean, I think I know, but I'd love to hear why you think we do that.
Yeah. I think, okay, so let's be clear. Most of my Enneagram knowledge comes from Jen. So if I say anything wrong, I fully expect her to correct me.
So fun.
I have found, number one, for who I am, I have always been a behind the scenes person, right? Like, the meeting
Mm.
planner is J Lo in the wedding planner in the back with the headset on, like, she's making it all happen, but she's not out front. So the majority of decisions I've made in the last 6 years have required my face to be out there. And
Mhm.
so that's a real easy space for me to be like, "No, I think I don't want to do that." I've gotten real good at being okay with that. And then the other piece for me is truly fear of success. Because
Yeah.
if I succeed, what does that mean? Am I too big for my britches? If I
Mhm.
succeeded on accident, or if I succeed, what is that going to do to the boundaries that I've got with my family? Or if I succeed, am I putting myself out there? What am I risking,
Mhm.
putting out there? And acknowledgement of what it is, what those little voices in your head are, that when you say, "Yeah, I want to go do that," and it's like, but, man, you just got to learn how to listen to what those particular voices are and be like, those aren't true. That's
Yeah.
just a little voice your head is giving you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, so back to that example when I was thinking about this business retreat, it was actually to go on this trip with you.
Yeah,
We were gonna spend
such
2
a fun trip.
days. I know, it was a great trip. So spoiler alert, we went. But, like, it was 2 days before I was already going to be gone for 3 days for this business trip that ended up changing times. So I was then going to be gone for another like 4 or 5 days after. So it was going to be, and so I was like, I can't do that. And I really had to ask myself, who told me I can't do that? Well, I did. Like I'm the one that said that. So why am I doing that? And coming back down to, I knew that some time, not in the business retreat part, but the time actually having fun and prioritizing some fun, and the time that I would spend dreaming and thinking in a different atmosphere was going to shift something. And that was unpredictable. And it was really scary. And what came out of that, because I did go back to that Southwest tab and book the flight, is Joyosity. That's what came out of that. that whole time of sitting in musicals, of walking a city that I love, of being with other creative people, of taking that time, created something amazing that I didn't know existed. And now I am unbelievably passionate about. Like I was already there, but labeling it, identifying it, getting the actual logistics sorted. But I'm the one that told myself no. And so I'm the one that could give myself permission. And so I think we just do that so much. And so I just kind of come back to that. What's the purpose? What's the ROI? Like you said, here's the return. And then once you make a decision, you work it out. Like
you make it happen. It's like, I mean, my kids have to be 87 places at once, and it is painful.
Oh my gosh. When all of our kids were home, because our kids are similar ages to yours, and nobody could drive, it's just like 4 kids, 18 different directions. How is that possible? But it did.
Well, I mean, our Sunday summit at my house is primarily like, okay, who's picking this person up and where, how are we getting them, and blah, 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 blah. That said, like we have decided as a family, my husband and I have decided to allow these 87 things. And so what that means is at the end of the day, I can't really be that pissed off about it because we decided that we were going to do it, right? Like we, as a family, like we have our boundaries and whatnot. And so I think that helps when you get to the part where it's still really hard to be running out the door to go do the thing.
Yeah.
But I was telling Jen right before we got on here, this week is crazy, right? Like we're from the conference. I've got some real big non-conference business stuff going on. My kiddos' cheer starts this week, like all the things. But I have given myself permission to really design my life in a way that, yes, I will be running like this. And also I never have caffeine, and I had it today. So that's why I'm a little, but everything is, I'm going to be able to be at everything that I want to be at this week. So the times that I feel overwhelmed, I'm just going to say, like, I know why I've chosen that particular piece of overwham.
Back to the purpose.
I think why that is so hard for us, Jen, is that we have grown up, and I'm going to talk about America, like, the country of America, right? The majority of us have grown up within this structure of you work for someone else, right? Yeah. So your hours are set for you. Your goals are generally set for you. You have to ask permission to make this change, or comms needs to approve the email before you send it out. And that's all after we've been in school for 12-ish, 16 years. And the teachers have had, we've had to ask for permission from them. And before that, it was from our family. So when we go into any space where there's not someone, the adult in the room, to ask the permission to, it feels very discombobulating.
Yeah. Well, it's scary because it feels insecure.
Yeah, you
feel insecure.
That's insecure. That's exactly
it. No, discombobulated is the actual feeling. Yes. I agree with you.
And also, I love that word so much. But it's like, it's just the structure that we've been in. The longer I am outside of that structure, it's much easier for me. The uncomfortable feeling isn't there as much anymore. So I think that's what it is.
What do you say to the person? Because I think one of the things I noticed about myself when I started trying to do big things, even when I was working inside an organization, I would watch somebody else do something really big at their organization. I used to be an educator, and I was in a large private school conference, and they were doing this, and I was like, the first thought I had was like, I so want to do that. It must be nice that they get to.
Yeah.
And that we think must be nice. And at that time, I was like, well, how did they get to, like, I didn't yet have the wherewithal to say, I can do that too. I could create that space, but I had to get curious first about, well, how how did they do that? What is that like? So what do you say to the person who's like, well, it must be nice. You've got this great husband, or must be nice. You've got all this experience.
Yeah,
How do you help
absolutely.
us when we're in that space?
Um, I I like to do the what's the worst thing that can happen, right?
Mhm.
So I think
Great
that is a really
exercise.
great exercise to start with. So if you are in an org and you're going to go to a decision maker and present something, some big idea, like what's the worst thing that's going to happen, right? And most of the time, any woman I ask that question to, the answer is I'm going to get fired. Like that is literally the worst thing that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And almost every time I ask that question and that's the answer, it's not really a job that they're like, and if I get fired, then I finally go find the job I really want to have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to be clear. I don't advocate for anything that puts you or your family at financial risk. I have that conversation with a lot of women who are stepping out into entrepreneurship. But I think if you can have a very clear understanding of what's the worst thing that can happen,
Yeah.
it's probably not as bad as when you don't think about what it is. You're just like, this could be terrible.
Yeah.
What is terrible, right? Like it's terrible
Mhm.
that you may sweat through your clothes because you're nervous talking to
Mhm.
somebody. Like that's not actually that terrible,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a good way to start. And then my friend Judy, she's always like, it's not what's the worst thing that can happen, it's what's the best thing
Yeah.
that can happen. And
Yeah.
I do think that's pie in the sky unicorn, right? But it's a good conversation. Like when you just don't have a person to have that conversation with, those are the questions to ask yourself.
Absolutely.
What's the worst
Absolutely.
thing and what's the best thing?
That's such a great thing, and that's also true too for entrepreneurs. I mean, of course, you're
Mhm.
just the one that is taking it just feels like a different level of risk because you have a different type of community. It just feels
Yeah.
different. It's not worse or harder. It's just different. Although sometimes I feel like entrepreneurship is the professional growth because it's so personal is really challenging. But so you've been talking a lot about the permission slip conference. And we're just oh my gosh, look at the time. Anyway, will you give us a little bit about what the permission slip conference is and why is it important that we give ourselves permission to go? Like, what are
Yes,
we doing there?
absolutely. So Sally and I have two goals with the Permission Slip Conference. The first is for women to understand that they are the only ones that can give themselves permission to do
Mhm.
whatever their next big thing is. And I want to be clear, big doesn't have to be bigger, better, more. Big can be a step back. It can be a pivot. It can be a big idea. But whatever that thing is that you're holding yourself back from, right? So we want them to understand that they're the only person that can give themselves permission. And then number two, we want every woman that is at this conference to walk out the door knowing that they are going to and deserve to give themselves permission. They
Mm,
deserve it. Their idea deserves it. And all of the people that are going to be impacted and the legacy that that idea is going to leave deserves it. And it's just not fair to them or the world or their idea to ignore it,
yeah.
right? They just need to do it. So it's a full day conference. We're running breakfast all the way through an evening reception. We have amazing speakers, which I just cannot even with how awesome they're going to be. And there is a really solid mix of inspiration and tactics, like things you can put into place that day. And then I'm going to use Sally says the gentler words, a nice kick in the pants. It's like if you need someone who's going to tell you, just go do your thing. It's a room full of those women. And we've got, I think, 17 states represented right now by ticket holders. So when we're thinking of this as like a summer camp day, right? Like you just have that shared memory with the
Mhm.
people you have summer camp with. So we're excited for the women to leave and have this new community, this wider network of women who believe in them. And are just going to keep cheering them on. Yeah.
I love it so much. Okay, tell us when it is and how we can find out. Well, I can tell you how to find out information because that's this
Indestructible.
QR
Yeah.
code right there. But
Yeah.
tell us when it is.
Yeah, so it is December 4th. It is here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We've got room for a little over 200 women to be in the room. So I'm just so excited about that community. We're starting the night prior on the 3rd with a VIP reception. So we have a small handful of tickets to that. And all of our speakers will be at that reception. And it's only going to be, I think our limit's 50 people. So really great, just one-on-one time with the folks in that room. And then the day of, the presentations are going to be amazing, and we've built in a lot of time for individual networking, Q&A with the speakers, just really as hands-on. I've got 20 some odd years in events, Sally has 20 some odd years in events. And so we've created the conference we've always wanted. That's what it is. And
it's so exciting. I think there's just so much power when, if you're like, oh, this conference isn't the best for me because I do something different or I'm already booked that day. I really want you to consider, or you're listening to this after it's over, first of all, like connect with Erika and Sally because I know this is happening again. I am like,
it is. We're just throwing it out there. It's happening. We don't have a date
happening again. But anytime I look back, anytime I've invested myself, when I was an early teacher going to my very first MMEA, Missouri Music Teachers Association conference at the Lake of the Ozarks, I walked away better every single time because there is so much power in the growth of changing your atmosphere, of getting away with that idea of retreat and reset is so powerful. So I just want to encourage you if you're listening and you're like, like, I want to do this. Okay, so do it. You're the one who's the boss.
Let's do it. And actually, I'll give you two. I'll drop it in the comments. Well, maybe you can. I've got a discount code. Erika 10, ERIKA 10. That'll get you a 10% discount on the ticket. And ticket prices go up on Friday. This Friday, November 17th, by $100. So if you are, if you're coming, give yourself permission to get the cheapest possible ticket.
Yeah, this Midwestern girl is like, oh, that's a deal.
Let's go ahead and get that done now. And I want to give just a 30-second plug about being in a room. To your point, there was a dinner I had with Judy Holler, who I did not know. I went to dinner with her, and she asked me a question that changed the kind of trajectory of my life. And that was because I was at a meeting and I asked her to go to dinner with me. And then a second time I was in a conference in Toronto and thousands of people were in a room, and a woman named Jade Simmons said something from the stage that quite literally in that moment created the idea of Aught. So when we talk about being in the room, like I am sitting here 4 years later celebrating this business and hosting a conference with both of those women speaking at it because I chose to be in those two rooms. So if you want to do something, get in the rooms where you can make those things happen.
Absolutely. Get in the room. In the room where it happens. Everyone knew that was coming. Everyone who knows us knew that was coming. Thank you so much, Erika, for coming on. Just so last minute onto a live show and just being such an expert in your field and the aggressively helpful woman that you are. And
I'm you in person. T-minus 3 weeks from yesterday.
That's right. I will be there. And I've told, if you get my emails, we were talking about maybe we have a Joyosity join up.
Yes, that's great.
I think it would be really fun. So find out more here. Follow Erika and Sally Zimney, Sally Z, and because they are just wonderful people to follow and a host of just goodness for you in your soul and really great practical things as well that will grow you as a leader, as an entrepreneur, in all those places. So thanks so much for being there.
My sign, Jen?
What does it say?
Today I choose joy.
Oh, it just makes me happy.
I know. And love it. My face. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much, everyone. We'll be live here next week with, let me make sure I know what we're talking about. 4 questions that will cool any heated conversation. So if you couldn't remember that next Monday is the Monday before Thanksgiving, that is why we're doing that. So just so you know, I'm doing my Thanksgiving shopping. Next Monday, you'll be here. 4 questions to help cool any heated conversation. Awesome, everybody. Thanks so much for being here, Erika. Bye. So let me put my coach hat on for just a sec. Don't just leave this here. Take a moment. What did you learn? What's your next tiny action step? Share this episode with someone and tell them. Connect with us to keep this conversation going. As always, I'm Jen Whitmer. Thank you for listening to Joyosity. I don't take for granted that your earballs have a lot of information coming at you. Please take a moment to rate and subscribe. It really helps more people join us in creating positive culture with complex people. So work is a joy, people are whole, and organizations flourish. Can't wait for you to join us next week.